Hello and welcome to this all about Coastal Highway guide video. In this video I will be going over some key information to help you get familiar with the Coastal Highway region in the long dark. I'm going to be going over things like transition zones, base options, wildlife, advice on exploring the region, and much more. Feel free to check out the timestamps in the description to jump to the information you need. A very brief background. Coastal Highway was the second region released with the game, and as its name suggests, it is a coastal region, known for its overall sea-like shape. It does tend to be warmer overall than Mystery Lake, however the wildlife is abundant. There is a road running along the whole coast of the region, with a large open bay, iced over of course, with fishing huts. It has 3 transition zones and some great base options. As well, with the Tales DLC, Coastal Highway is the home to the Trader Box. Map overview. You could split Coastal Highway into 2 major sections, one being the hilly, foresty area, and the other being the large frozen bay. There are quite clear paths to follow in Coastal Highway. All points of entry to the region lead you on a path. The hilly area especially contains pretty clear paths you can follow. Of course, out on the bay it's not as defined. These paths in the hills can lead you to/past various smaller shelters such as trailers and small cabins. If it's clear, you can often get a lookout onto the bay as well. The coastal road that runs all the way along the coast in Coastal Highway is a solid landmark to follow. It does take you past quite a few of the points of interests and interior spaces. As well, it leads to one of the transition zones, Crumbling Highway, which leads you to Desolation Point. Main bases. Quonset Garage. Definitely the most popular base option in the region and a very popular option overall. Especially since the addition of the trader, it makes it a prime spot. It provides an inside fire barrel with 2 cooking slots, a bed, and 2 workbenches, for some reason. And plenty of storage. The trader's radio is also located inside the Quonset garage. Downsides do include that it is surrounded by abundant wildlife, being a roaming area for a bear, moose, and wolves. As well as sometimes passive wildlife of course, such as does and deers. There are many cars nearby to sleep in to combat cabin fever, but just note that on higher difficulties, especially the cold, might be an issue. I will mention a few more options, but personally, Quonset Garage is the only way to go in Coastal Highway. Jackrabbit Island or Misanthropes Island. Some of you may choose to settle on one of the Bay Islands. They are nearby the fishing and beachcombing, which is handy. However, there is no indoor cooking on either island. The closest cooking facilities, excluding crafting a campfire of course, are the fishing huts. Especially with the new trader feature, you may also be more inclined to set up here. The fishing camp. The fishing camp could also be an option as it has an outside workbench and is nearby fishing huts. However, once again, there is no indoor cooking facilities and there is quite a lot of dangerous wildlife nearby. Transition zones. Transition zones are locations in a main region which let you move into a different region, sometimes via transitional regions or via other methods. Coastal Highway is a main region in the game with 3 transition zones to 3 other areas. First of all, to the Ravine, which leads to Mystery Lake or Bleak Inlet via a rail tunnel. Number 2, to Crumbling Highway, which is a transition region and it leads further on to Desolation Point. Pleasant Valley via a cave/mine system. Prepper Cache. There is no Prepper Cache located in Coastal Highway. The Aurora Mine. The Aurora Mine is an area in the abandoned mines of Coastal Highway which can only be accessed during an aurora. This is because you need to use an elevator to get to it, and obviously that is only powered during an aurora. The Aurora Mine is known for being quite dangerous and risky due to the electrified water and live wires, both of which can cause you harm and even death. Add to that the chance that you could get stuck down here and potentially die that way. The reward, of course, is good loot, at least on the difficulties up to and including Stalker. However, on Interloper or higher, I'd seriously consider whether it's worth going down here, as the loot is very limited. To enter the mine, you have to first go into the abandoned mine entrance, located a little bit uphill on the other side of the road from the log sort. As mentioned, an Aurora must be present to use the elevator. I highly advise you to make sure you have enough food and water as well as light sources. Go down the elevator and explore with care. There is quite a lot of loot to be found, again excluding Interloper or higher, such as jerry cans, possible rifle, gunpowder, skill books, and more. Again, it is a risky adventure as you may also potentially get stuck. If I'm correct, I believe a scripted Aurora should happen the next night, allowing you to exit. However, if you miss this somehow or sleep through it, you will be waiting potentially a very long time till whenever the next Aurora decides to show up. And in this time, you may come to your demise, unfortunately, due to either injury, cabin fever, lack of resources. So I really recommend to think about whether this is worth exploring. It is a very high risk area to go to. Probably, I'm assuming or thinking, one of the least explored areas in the game, just because of the high risk. Facilities. Very abundantly available in Coastal Highway is fishing, as well as beachcombing. Workbenches are located in Quonset garage and outdoors at the fishing camp. As for cooking facilities, there is an indoor fire barrel at Quonset garage and potbelly stoves in every of the fishing huts, as well as in the abandoned lookout tower. Beachcombing. Unique only to Coastal Highway, Desolation Point, Bleak Inlet, and Crumbling Highway, a mechanic called beachcombing is available. This is when items wash up on the shore, especially after a blizzard. A large variety of items can wash up, as well as sometimes boats or other containers like lockers or trunks. The condition of the items and the quantity will differ depending on your difficulty. Just be aware that obviously when you are nearby the shoreline, the ice can start to break and you can fall in and get hypothermia. So it's definitely good to be very careful when doing this, and if you have the crampons, they can reduce your time of falling in the ice slightly, so it helps a little bit, and of course, not being encumbered helps too. Loot. Coastal Highway generally has a pretty decent amount of loot and resources. Once again, of course, this also depends on the difficulty you are playing. In regard to tools and weapons, the most likely to find in Coastal Highway are the heavy hammer and hacksaw, followed by pry bars. Of course, the DLC variant of the rifle, Barb's rifle, is also found in Coastal Highway, but you also have a chance of finding the standard rifle or the standard revolver. And it's also possible to find a hatchet and hunting knife as well. Please note, however, that on Interloper and Misery mode difficulties, no guns spawn, and you have to craft a hatchet and knife yourself. There are plenty of areas and interiors to explore where you'll find various other loot like clothing, food, and medical items. Natural resources. Coastal Highway is pretty abundant in natural resources. You can find all of the following: rose hips, reishi mushrooms, old Baird's lichen, cattails, birch and maple saplings, acorns, burdock, and they also have salt deposits here. However, you will not find birch bark in Coastal Highway. Wildlife. As I've mentioned, the wildlife in Coastal Highway is definitely quite abundant. You will find rabbits, deer, wolves, timberwolves, bears, moose, and if you have the DLC, cougars. However, at the moment of making this video, the cougar is temporarily removed from Coastal Highway. However, I believe it will be at some point added back in, but maybe with its spawn locations changed. There are no ptarmigan in Coastal Highway. In December 2024, there was a wildlife refresh, meaning there were changes to the spawn locations and/or wandering routes of wildlife. So let's go over the spawn locations for moose, bear, and let's have a quick look also at wolves and timberwolves. As for moose spawns, there is only one location where the moose spawns in Coastal Highway, and that is in the coastal town site, yes, right next to the Quonset garage. Bears. There are 3 bear caves located in Coastal Highway. One of them is up in the hills behind the coastal town site. This bear tends to roam around up in the hills as well as coming down to the town at times, near Misanthropes Island, roaming the icy bay and the coastal areas. Number 3. Further down from the Bear Creek campground. I don't know the precise routes they take, but keep an eye out if you are nearby any of these bear cave locations. Wolves. Wolves are rather abundant in Coastal Highway, spawning along many of the hill paths near the town site and all across the frozen bay. Timberwolves. Timberwolves can now also spawn in Coastal Highway since the global refresh in December 2024. In my experience, they only spawn on the frozen bay and not in any of the hilly areas. Though be aware, normal wolves do spawn in the hilly areas. Vista points and Polaroids. Vista points are locations in a region where if you survey the area with charcoal, it will reveal a greater area of the map compared to when you normally survey. You first need to find the relevant Polaroid, then go to the Vista location and survey the map. It won't work unless you have the Polaroid. There is one Vista location in Coastal Highway, which is at the abandoned lookout tower. There are 7 possible locations to find the Polaroids. Please note on Interloper and Misery, however, I believe only 4 of the locations will spawn the Polaroid, but I will point these out. Number 1. If you go north uphill from Rockfall, you'll come across a backpack or a corpse, which can contain the Polaroid. Number 2. In a backpack between Misanthropes Homestead and Jackrabbit Island. Number 3. Up in the hilly area north from where the tooth is located, you will find a small cabin. Behind here you will find a sneaky backpack hidden among the rocks. Number 4. If you head up into the hills from the fishing camp area and go a little bit to the right, you will come across a corpse which can also potentially have the Polaroid. Number 5. Beneath the abandoned lookout and below, there is actually a ledge in between. There's 2 climbing ropes. In between these 2 climbing ropes, on this ledge you'll find a small alcove and potentially find the Polaroid in a backpack or on a corpse here. Number 6. Behind Jackrabbit Island, near where there are some salt deposits, sometimes there is a corpse which you may also find the Polaroid. However, currently in my games, this seems to be missing. However, I'm not sure if this is just a current bug that is going on at the time of making this video. And number 7, in a little backpack next to the tooth. Memento Caches. Mementos are collectibles which you can find throughout Great Bear. They lead you to either a hidden cache with some form of loot or a hint at a landmark or a transition zone. The way it works is you first need to find a note which correlates to a certain cache. You won't be able to access the caches without having found the note first. Sometimes they come with a key as well. Coastal Highway has 2 memento caches you can find. Number 1. Found in the car at the commuter's lamed end of the coastal road, the note will lead you to this loose tree bark outside the cabin at Rabbit Grove. It potentially has ammo, maple syrup, or other food. Number 2. A note found in the car just before the concrete bridge at the Rockfall end of the coastal road. This directs you to a cache, in this case a boat, with loose boards which often contains fishing tackle, coffee, or energy drink. DLC content. I just also wanted to quickly go over a few things relevant if you have the Tales from the Far Territory DLC. First of all, Barb's rifle. Barb's rifle is one of the rifle variants added as part of the Tales DLC. This rifle has a higher base weight than the standard rifle, but its durability is 33% more. It can be found in one of the following locations in Coastal Highway. Number 1. inside Quonset Garage. Number 2, in one of the many fishing huts on the bay. Number 3, underneath the concrete bridge near Rockfall. Number 4, in one of the train cars in the train loading area.
Just what I need.
The Trader. Coastal Highway is the only region which has the Trader's trading box. There is only one located in the hull of Great Bear. Here is where you'll need to drop off and pick up items for your trades. There is a trader radio located inside Quonset Garage. Just be aware that a bear can roam very nearby, and watch out for wolves and timberwolves across the lake. The Cougar. With the DLC, originally the Cougar did spawn in Coastal Highway. However, at the time of making this video, the Cougar has been temporarily removed from the Coastal Highway region as it interfered too much with the trading routes. I'm not sure if at some point they plan on adding it back or if they will decide to remove the Cougar from Coastal Highway altogether. However, currently I can't tell you that as I said at the time of recording this video. This is the information I have, so there you go. Routes of exploration. In terms of routes exploring Coastal Highway, it depends where you enter the region or where you spawn if it's the first region you're starting on. My personal preference usually is to first head to Quonset Garage at the coastal townside, no matter where I first enter or spawn. In Coastal Highway, I like to use it as my kind of base of operations and head out from there. For example, once you got yourself there, you could take a trip to the waterfront cottages, the car before the transition to Crumbling Highway, which has one of the Memento nodes, and pick up the saplings at the very end. You could head across the frozen bay to the island homes, either one at a time or together, checking the fishing cabins along the way. You could also just follow the main coastal road and go to the main points of interest along here, such as the fishing camp, the log sort, the concrete bridge, where you may also find Barb's rifle if you have the DLC. You could also explore up in the hilly areas by following the paths up there. Just be a bit more careful with this because it is hilly, obviously. There is a roaming bear and multiple wolves potentially. And sometimes with the hilly areas, it's a lot harder to see ahead of you. So you might potentially be a bit surprised sometimes. So just take extra caution when you are exploring the hillier areas. If you come into the region from Pleasant Valley via the mine and cave system, I kind of recommend dropping by the abandoned tower on your way down to the townside. If you enter from the ravine, you could also follow the frozen creek down to the road. However, this is a rather risky route because of wolves and a bear potentially, and there's also only one interior space between entering the region and getting back down to basically the frozen bay, where there's then fishing huts and potentially if you get to Jackrabbit Island. However, in between that there's only a little cabin at Rabbit Grove, so just keep that in mind, it's a bit of a riskier route. I hope I've covered all the information you might need as a guide to help you get familiar with the Coastal Highway region. Do let me know if you feel like I've missed anything out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.